Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple Top 10. This is not live, and this is technically the second time we're recording this because somebody, no names, forgot to press record the first 10 minutes we just recorded conversation. I won't say who that idiot was.
Wasn't me.
I think you can guess what. So we're technically doing this intro twice, but no matter. We'll just consider it a warm-up for Jona, who I've got with me here from One Pip Wonder, the girl who can't stop smiling.
I try really hard.
Especially after we just made that mistake. So we're definitely not smiling now.
That's all right. That's all right. I needed the practice.
But we'll get on with the list and not repeat what we just said because we were talking mostly about squash existing in the US. But we'll gloss over that point. But here, originally this top 10 beautiful games was going to be the list we were going to do until that got moved over to Board Game Perspective from last night. So instead, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? And your idea was
games that put you on the edge of your seat. Angsty games. Nail biters.
It was stressful. Good stressful games.
Stressful, yeah.
Yeah, we have stipulated that we're not putting any games on the list that are hated games. We hate this game because it stresses us out. All of these 10 games we want to play and do play often. It's just, okay, for whatever reason, whether, it's the whole game or just a phase or playing as a certain character or anything like that makes it stressful, but that's why you enjoy it.
Exactly.
And so that. So we've already talked of it. I can't think of any other caveats really with the list. We all enjoy them. It's kind of in order of which ones, obviously I enjoy all of these. I think it's kind of like, as you get towards number one, it's which ones stress me out most.
Yeah, I guess which I have the most strong memories from experiencing, like highs and lows, like a roller coaster experience. That's kind of what I love about these type of board games. So that's what I went with, were the ones with those strongest emotional feelings from.
Yeah, in a good way. Right, yeah. How many crossovers do you reckon? Because to be fair, I've watched some of your stuff, but I've not seen a ton of your collection, so I'm not entirely certain what games you're fully into. So in terms of guessing what you'd have on your list, I wouldn't have the first clue, especially as you have access to more kid-friendly games as well.
Right.
Your family circumstance.
There may be a kid game, one or two, because that's what I play a lot. I'm playing a lot of kid games right now, but there's one that I feel pretty strongly about that we might both have on our list. So maybe one or two, maybe. I don't know. I'm really curious.
I'm probably thinking just a couple max on that basis, because you're going to have more family-orientated games that I wouldn't normally have myself, just because I don't have kids to play with. So it'll be, we'll cover the whole wide spectrum from light to. Have I got any heavy games on my list? I'm curious on that. I don't think any of mine.
I have two pretty heavy games. I don't know. I'm curious what you would consider them.
Yeah,
I think they're heavy.
That's the whole idea of these. So without further ado, we'll get on to the 10s. And starting with yours, of course, guess go first.
Okay, so my number 10 is Las Vegas. So this is a fairly light betting and dice rolling game, and it's set in Las Vegas in a casino. So in the middle of the board are these casino cards, and they're numbered from 1 to 6. And then each player has their own set of dice, and you're going to be rolling these dice, and whatever numbers you roll, you can choose what number to put onto the corresponding dice card in the middle of the table. And so the dice accumulate as the round goes, and whoever ends up with the most dice on the casino card gets the money that was randomly distributed to that casino card at the beginning of the round. And of course, the main point of the game is to get the most cash at the end. But because I don't know, it's a dice rolling game. It's like pure luck. All you are is rolling those dice and deciding where to designate those rolled numbers. And when you roll a number, it's if you roll 3 2s, then all those dice have to go on the casino card. You can't like just pick and choose. So you don't want to like put all your eggs in the basket at the beginning of the round, but you also want to make the most of those like dice rolls that you roll a lot of the same number. So this game gives you a lot to kind of ponder and think about, but it's ultimately just all in the dice rolls. So it's very fun. It's very quick.
I've still never played this one, actually. It's just never come up. I mean, it's,
right.
So you've got the money on each of these houses, but
each card,
everybody can see what you've rolled,
right?
So and where you can't go.
Well, yeah, and you can like challenge other people and just keep adding dice every turn. Every time you roll that number, you can keep adding it to that card to try and outbid that person.
Are all the dice rolled in advance?
Yeah, every time you take a turn, you roll those dice, and then you decide. Right. Yeah, there's 8 dice. Every person has a set of 8 dice.
But you don't roll all 8 and then that's what you're stuck with for the round. Because I'm just sort of thinking, if I've rolled 8 dice and I've got 3 4s and I can see you've got 2 4s, then I know I can outbid you on the 4s. Or is it not work that way?
It builds upon itself. So you roll all your dice and then you decide. So if you roll like, 4 4s, then you have to decide whether you're going to pick another. Maybe you also rolled like a 1 6. You could put that 1 6 on the 6 card and save those dice for your next turn. So you can kind of like, see how it goes. See, a lot of times what happens with the money on these cards, it's randomly distributed, like I said, and what you do is you deal out the bills onto the casino cards until you reach a quantity of 50 or higher. So some of the casino cards can have like $200 on it because it'll like be, I forget what the quantities are of the dollar bills, but they'll be like 50s, 100s. Yes. So that's kind of random. And so a lot of times when there's a high amount of cash on one card, everyone will just go for that one. But and you can kind of just be like, well, I'm going to leave that to the the horde that's going after that high card, and you can kind of just go after the smaller quantities. Mm-hmm. But you also, there's first place and second place and third place rewards. So the person with the most dice will get the first bill. So the person with the second dice will get the second bill. And sometimes the second bill is higher than the first. So you kind of have to figure out where you want to place on each card.
Yeah, right. I need to get it played. I just not have come across it. It's not turned up, but I probably would. I suppose I don't go for too many auction/bidding games, but I mean this one seems simple. It's light-hearted. I could teach it to anybody.
Easy to teach.
I just need to give it a shot. But you find it stressful just for the idea that you don't know whether someone's going to.
It's push your luck. Yeah, it's push your luck, and you don't know if like you might save your dice for the end, hoping you can outbid someone basically, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So
fair enough.
That's why I picked it. Anyway.
Nah, fair enough. I need to give it a try. I'm sure most people have, and I'm one of the odd one out.
Yeah, I'm excited that I was like, he probably played this, but so.
Some games escape me. This one never did, though, whether it's the Portal version or the Asmodee version. I've played both, but this one's a little bit more specific. You can play as either the deduction part of it, the detective part, or you can play as what's known as the ghost, because in my case, I love playing the ghost when I'm teaching this game. And Mysterium can be a very good edge of my seat one as the ghost player. That's why it's a bit lower on the list, because it's very, very specific. Because as a deduction player, I've got to try and figure out what on earth are they trying to tell me, and you've only got so many rounds to do it, but then that wouldn't be on the list for that. When you're playing as the ghost, however, in this, and I love playing the ghost for this reason, especially if I'm teaching a game, I'll do that hard bit. But it's already stressful enough trying to find out, okay, what cards am I going to pick for this? Because none of these link. I've got to come up with some clue that's not too cryptic, not too, weird. But then even when I've given the cards out, I'm listening to them talking what they're on about, and they'll be discussing it amongst themselves. You'll be, you can't give away if someone's there, so I can't even nod or shake my head. I've just got in my head going, you say, you know what you're talking about. I like you. Shut up, quiet boy. As I'm listening to these people go off on tangents, and it's just, especially if somebody convinces everybody to go on the wrong tangent, and you're just,
I know.
no, we're going to win this.
This is such a good pick, Luke. I totally relate to being the ghost. I literally just have to hide under the shield. Otherwise, I will just reveal everything.
I was going to say, are you necessarily? Oh, is that Paul Grogan? Oh my God, Paul Grogan! How dare you cameo in one of my pictures? But yeah, this one I love these picture games. All of these I've got like a shelf devoted to them pretty much, and. As the ghost player say, I'm listening. If we get to the last round, like somebody has got to get this weapon card, or in my case, the story cards, because I've expanded this. And I'm just thinking, if we don't get this, we lose. And even with the smaller version, the like Mysterium Park one, which I'd argue replaces the big game for a lot of people.
Does it? Okay. Does it replace it for you?
I still own both because it's different cards, different experience, and this one's more of a meta one, but I do understand that this one can be an alternative, because it's just like, right, well, I can set this up in a minute, teach it about 2 or 3, and we'll get it done in about 45 minutes or something. But the cards that are used in each make the game different. Like this one I actually think is harder than normal Mysterium, because a lot of the circus cards are similar to each other, whereas in Mysterium they're a bit more like distinct. But they're both good. But the plenty of times, last player, last round, hurry up and get this. He's 50-50 between 2 cards, and you are just there biting all the nails in your own head or something. It's like pick the iron, you idiot.
I know.
And it works for that. But it can be stressful, but like I say, as the ghost specifically, as if you should be stressed when you're already dead.
Right. I know, that should be over.
It'll be over. All right, moving on to nines.
All right, so my number 9 is a card game called Dutch Blitz. And this is a real-time racing card game.
I'm learning a lot from this list.
Yeah, you've never heard of Dutch Blitz? It's
the
a
name sounds familiar.
It's a classic in the Pennsylvania Dutch community. Like, I've been playing this. My husband's been playing this since we were kids. We both played it. So this is like I said, it's a card game. Everyone has their own deck of cards, and they're distinguished by farm equipment. So there's like the yellow plow, the blue bucket. I forget what the other things are, but
is this it?
Yeah. You can find these at most restaurants in Pennsylvania. So it's an old game, but it's kind of like do you know the game Spoons, where like you try to steal a spoon without someone seeing when you have a set? Do you know do you play a game like that?
Games like it, but not Spoons.
Okay. Well, it's like that game, and Solitaire had a baby, and it's Dutch Blitz. It's very fast-paced and frantic. And what you're doing is when you start each round, you have to deal 10 cards. And this is the blitz pile. And the whole point of the game, what you're trying to do is get rid of those 10 cards throughout the round. And then you can also have these post piles that you can place cards onto those, kind of like a layaway sort of thing, to put them out of the way, but then you can play them later when you have an opportunity to. And what is happening is in the middle of the table are Dutch piles. And the Dutch piles they go in ascending order, 1 through 10, I believe, and they have to match color. And anyone can start a Dutch pile as soon as a 1 is revealed from your hand or your deck or your blitz pile. You just put that in the middle of the table and everyone will start playing on it. So if you can't play if you can't play the top card from your blitz pile, then you go on to dealing yourself a new card from the rest of your deck, and you have to do it in 3. You have to like deal 3, and the 3rd card is in play. So you're constantly just going through your deck trying to find a card you can play so you can get that blitz card out. The first person to get their blitz cards out will trigger the end of the game, and then everyone's going to count up those cards that were put in the middle of the table, and you get points for every card you got out, but then you also get 2 subtracted points for every blitz card still in your pile. And then you play until like 79 or something like that.
This is definitely one I'd have to play to even understand what's going on with the start.
There's a lot going on.
It's like one of the most complex sounding timed games I've ever played. Although time games make sense for being stressful, because I definitely have a time game on my list.
I mean, if you're not playing this on the edge of your seat or standing up, you're not playing it right.
Because you mentioned like Pennsylvania Dutch community, and I mean it confuses me a lot with the states where you've got new everything. So you had New York, that's fine, but then you get like New Hampshire, New Somerset, and it's just like, well, hang on a minute, I'm from Somerset here, all right? What's this new version?
Is the new one.
It's like, is it the same? I mean, are we all farmers in New Somerset as well as my Somerset? It's kind of weird, but
yeah.
I mean, we certainly haven't got a British Dutch community specific. If
and it's just the way that so many immigrants from Germany came over and just kind of like melded together this community. So it's still very strong. There's still a lot of people that speak Pennsylvania Dutch, which is like a variant of German. Like I have a friend who like speaks it fluently with her relatives. So anyway. It's interesting, but this is
I'm all up for diverse game groups, so we've only got so many of that. All right, fair enough. My number 9, everybody knows this game. Everybody knows I keep harping about this game all the time because I make the controversial statement that this should be the number 1 game on Board Game Geek on the basis of just how many people it's like being a factor to, and good old Ticket to Ride.
Yes.
Yes, it's a nice family game, but you are playing some of these maps, not necessarily, well, sometimes the USA one, but particularly not the Japan one. I'm thinking Africa, I'm thinking Nordic countries, I'm thinking even the UK one to a perspective, and the Poland one I've been doing can be quite stressful at times because with enough players or with the tracks locked off, you are just collecting the cards, getting the routes down, and praying to God that nobody takes your route.
Right.
And with my family, that is stressful because my dad plays this with the same strategy every time, which is hoarding a ton of cards. Then he gets playing it, and I'm kind of getting the cards I need, and I play my routes much more quickly because I'm always trying to get those key routes first. But I'm also thinking at some point Dad's going to get unleashed and he's going to start claiming every route on the planet turn after turn. Where are you going? Is it going to be my way or not? And that's just with him. If my brother's playing this or my mum's playing this as well, 3 or 4 of us at the table, we are going to be, as much as we're enjoying it as a lightweight thing, I just know somebody's going to block someone.
Yeah, I have to say, Ticket to Ride is one of my favorite games of all time. And if I ever was to go to a con and like compete, this would be the game. I rule at Ticket to Ride. And that's because I go around everybody. I don't deal with trying to get the routes first. It just stresses me out to no end. But I just go around the long way and try to get the longest train. And it usually works out.
Also, not many people go through the edges, I'll admit, and as I think I've got every map for this one now. I've got some that are preferable. I even did a top 10 list on my Ticket to Ride maps.
Nice.
It wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. I thought more people would have seen it, but it's still there. But going through the 10 maps I like, and it's just one of those games. But I still think that for something that has been on sale since 2004, can be played by anybody, is generally liked by most people of all types, all shapes and sizes, and the fact that my family could get into it. My dad's probably, this is his favorite game. He's always like saying, oh, we want a game or something, and his first inclination will be Ticket to Ride India, because he just likes playing that particular map as well. How can you not say that this is something should be rated number 1 on BGG? I know it's a geek top 100, like top 1,000 list, but I feel it should be a bit more universal.
Well, I would say that's debatable. I really like the one that's wait, what is number 1 right now? It's
Gloomhaven. It's always Gloomhaven.
Oh, it's Gloomhaven. Never mind. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, this monstrosity briefcase.
I was confusing lists. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Ticket to Ride is the bomb.
Is this going to be another one I've never heard of, though, is the question?
I think you may have heard of this one. Flatline? You've heard of Flatline?
Oh, yes, I know Flatline.
Okay. All right, so Flatline, it's a futuristic, cooperative dice rolling game. another dice. A lot of these on my list are dice rolling games because I don't know.
Dice stress you out.
They create suspense, and I really like dice. So, so Flatline, you are on a spaceship, and you are a medical team trying to save the patients. While this spaceship, for some reason, is like going down. There's like a lot of chaos happening. There's a lot of emergencies.
That's standard in every sci-fi space.
Yeah,
stuff, so.
pretty much. Yeah, par for the course. So in this game, everyone has their own set of dice, and these dice are, they have these weird shapes and patterns on them, but they correspond with your patient cards. And the patient cards have like a row of symbols that you have to clear to basically save that person's life, to save that patient's life. And the crux of the game is you're trying to clear all the patients for the end of the game. So on your turn, this happens in 60-second rounds. There is an app with a timer, so you can just use that, and it's very, thematic and immersive. So in 60 seconds, you all simultaneously roll these dice, and you collaboratively try to clear the patients that you can by saying like, well, I have this symbol, I can put this symbol out, we can clear this turn. And once a patient is cleared, you put like a little cardboard strip over it so you know that that's done. Some patterns have to be done individually. Some of them you need multiple players for. In addition to clearing patients, there's also emergency cards that are flipped over every round. Some of them are you have to take care of immediately. So there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of communication going on, but then a lot of pattern recognition and like fast reactions. Like the 60 seconds is like a time crunch. So it's a lot of fun. I really like the collaborative nature, and usually everyone is standing up and shouting by the end of the game. So that's very fun too.
I kind of I didn't latch onto it as much. Probably because I played quite a few of these dice games where it is like roll dice and match things up, like Pandemic, The Cure, and a few others. I think I'd played beforehand, and then I got onto this one. This one wasn't bad though. I just didn't latch onto it too much. But I remember it being ridiculously hard. I mean,
it is hard.
On easy mode, you could just about do it, but on some of the higher difficulties, I thought there's no way you can keep this up.
I know it is hard. I think the key is to really like during that that kind of down phase when you reveal the next cards, you really have to be strategic in that and all be on the same page. Like, are we going to handle these cards? And I know there's like different. I haven't played it in a while, but I know there's like different things that you have to handle. Otherwise, it'll ramp up the end of the game and trigger the end of the game sooner than you want it to. So you really have to kind of plan together what you're going to do before the 60 seconds. So anyway.
I think with me, it's just a case that the patients are just going to have like a sticky end, and they just have to kind of
some of them don't make it.
Many won't make it, but I've won it, just not very often.
Gotcha.
All right. Right. My number 8, some co-op games. Yeah, I think we are noticing a theme that co-op games are going to be quite a, shall we say, a common theme. Yeah, because you're working together, you're trying to beat something there. This one, partly because of the way it works, it's one of the legendary games, one of the legendary deck builder games, but it's an IP that warrants stress and tension, but it's also got several mechanics in it that work very nicely for being on the edge of your seat, and that's the Alien one specifically.
Oh.
So there's
like the reasons. Alien the movie? Alien?
Yeah, but what, you mean the egg doesn't give it away? Is like...
oh, I see it now. I see it. Sorry, my camera's in the way.
I say you need to watch more movies.
That's the scariest movie ever made in the 80s.
I do love it. It's technically 79, I think, actually.
Oh my gosh, it's older. Wow.
Yeah. But with this one, there's some of the, because the deck builders in the Legendary series have typically been like, oh, a villain deck or some enemy deck spouts out stuff and you just deal with it as it comes out. But the way the Alien one works is everything comes out hidden to begin with. So you don't even know what it is until you scan the card, which is thematic to what setting it is. It definitely ramps up for like how much more tense the situation gets as you run through that deck and start getting more powerful aliens sort of like popping out. But even when you're scanning the card, you don't know if it's an alien that's going to ambush you. You don't know if it's an objective you need. But the real, I mean, that's just like already like, oh, it ramps up and this is a cool edge of your seat co-op anyway. But it's when these things pop up that it really starts like getting edge of your seat, because I hate these things in the movie and this card game because I hate anything spider-like. And this is like, oh, we've just created this thing to scare Luke, basically. But in this game, it's got the most thematic way your character can die in any deck builder. Because if you've now played this, if you've come across the facehugger, that text is a bit small, but essentially what it's saying is you've got about a turn or max a turn or two at the end of your next turn to kill that thing off. It's not particularly hard, but you just may not get the cards or you're a bit distracted. And if you don't, you get a chestburster card that goes into your deck. It's a separate card. Oh. And for that period, nothing happens. But then for the remainder of the time that you have left in the game, you are basically going through like doing your cards as normal. But as soon as that chestburster card comes out of your deck, you instantly get killed off. Much like the movie.
So you're just waiting to die.
Yeah, it goes in your discard pile, and then you shuffle it into your deck, and then as you're going through your deck, it's like, when's that chestburster coming out?
That's horrifying.
It's like you're on a time limit, like your character is, and it's so tense waiting for that chestburster to suddenly appear. Like, can we hurry up and finish this map because I haven't got long. Sooner or later, I'm gonna pop, boom, and then it happens.
Oh man,
it's. I can't believe I've never seen such a more thematic thing in any deck builder. It's just done so well, and that's already when you're dealing with all the aliens that are coming out at a regular basis anyway. So it's easily my favorite of the Legendary series, not just because it's also probably, well, I do love Marvel, but yeah, it's taken my favorite horror franchise, despite the movies butchering it, to a point. But yeah. And obviously, I think I've scared you off the game now. So.
It sounds pretty fun, actually, but horrifying.
It's fun.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, until it pops out, but yeah, that's pretty bad.
I like when games are thematic and they do something kind of off the cuff that just works for the theme. I like that.
Works for this, and it's difficult to do it with deck builders. So, right, on to sevens.
All right, so your last game is pretty horrific, and this one is right up there. This is Nectrophobia.
I don't think I've played this. I can't remember how to spell that one.
Nectrophobia. Yeah, be careful how you spell it, because you might end up looking up a word you don't want to. But it's, should I spell it for you?
You're going to have to.
N-Y-C-T. It's N-Y-C-T-O.
Got it.
P-H. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is an all versus one game. And so the one player is going to be the axe murderer trying to hunt down the rest of the group. And the rest of the group is blindfolded and has to try and escape this madman through touch only. So, it's interesting because, like, if you are the hunted, it's very suspenseful and creepy and scary and immersive because you have these glasses on that you cannot see anything through. So this is all in your mind. You're just visualizing what's happening in your mind. So in that way, it just kind of exaggerates what is unfolding.
It just looks like there's a lot to manipulate there for somebody who's blind.
Right. There's a lot to feel. And it feels like the trees are kind of like a maze. And what the hunted are trying to do is find the car so they can call the police and escape. And what the hunter is trying to do is to take someone's health down to zero, like basically end their life before they are able to reach the car and call the police. So, and the hunter, I should say, kind of acts as a GM for this game. where they are revealing event cards and reading to the rest of the group what's going to happen. They can like advance and kind of go after certain people, but they're limited with movement to some degree. But they'll also be describing what's happening and showing people where their where their marker is. And on a hunted player's turn, they can feel their marker. Each like player piece has a different feel to it, different shape to it, and then they can feel one space in each direction around their piece before they decide where to go. And then they can also they can take a turn to throw a rock to distract the killer if he's about to attack another player. You can kind of figure which direction to throw the rock in to get him off your trail.
Sounds like
or
Friday
you can try and run.
The board game.
It is, yeah, pretty much. So it's a very weird game. It's very, like I said, it's super immersive because of that being blinded experience. And honestly, I haven't played The Hunter, but from just the description, from the way that people have played it, it is a very different role. So I would like to try that at some point. But as far as being a hunted person, it's very intense and scary. Like you are on the edge of your seat. Like just
yeah, it's not one that I've heard about. I've heard of it and I've seen it, but I've never really. I don't think I've seen anyone play it in a convention setting, and certainly I haven't heard much talk on the subject. But I'd be spending too long trying to find the board in front of me. It's like before I can feel where my marker is, I'm like, right, well, that's the board. Where's my marker?
Yeah, Hunter does that. They'll take your hand and say, like, this is your piece. And then
so this is completely this is like this game has literally not been played since April last year to now, because this would be a COVID versus worst nightmare.
Right. I mean, yeah, I haven't played it for like a year and a half, honestly, but it's one that I'm really glad that we have because it's so unique and it is a very amped up experience.
I would not trust anybody with my hand on this one. I'm sorry, but it's like, oh, let me just take your hand.
Disinfect it.
And I'm just, I'm not like that. I mean, I'm not a hypochondriac or anything, but I'm just like, okay, I'll just guide your hand to it. It's like, what like bottle of guns or weird stuff have you got? I wouldn't trust them to put my hand anywhere near the marker. I'd be like, it's like, oh yeah, I'll lead it to the marker. You don't know the people I game with. I
was like, man, you must have very not trustworthy friends.
Yeah, pretty much. I would not trust them to do that without playing some kind of prank at least once.
Right.
All right. With my one, we're sticking again to the horrified, actually, although this game isn't necessarily like, oh, it's scary horror. It's just the setting is a horror setting because we're dealing with ghosts again. But with this one, it's on the edge of your seat because at no point do you really feel that you're in control of the situation or oh, we're fine, this is not going to be a problem, and it's ghost stories specifically.
Oh.
This one,
I haven't played this yet.
The Great Tower Defense one, it's been replaced by not replaced, it's had a re-implementation with a fantasy setting. Don't bother with that. I mean, maybe it's slightly better, who knows, but come on, this theme and artwork beats it, I think.
Yeah.
This is more interesting, like an Asian kung fu ghost hunter type thing. But with this tower defense one, is you are constantly on the edge of your seats because you're in the 9 segments in the middle. The ghosts are coming on these. Trying to find a better photo for it, but you're effectively getting surrounded by ghost cards as they pop out, and as they pop out, each of you's got your own player board. So if you get all your spots filled, you're overwhelmed. You start taking damage. Once you're out, you're out. But you've got to fend them back for as long as possible until this Fu Manchu person essentially comes out and he's the boss and you got to take him out. And even then, you don't know what his stats are or anything. So several of them it could be. But this is one of the hardest co-ops out there. I mean, it can go up to hell difficulty, which is I want to play a game, not literally go to hell. But the introduction level of this game is still hard to beat. So I pretty much only play it on that level, especially if there's new players, because you got to be kind of able to work together, do the right things, like get these Buddha statues in place so that they fend off ghosts as they appear. But there are ghosts that are easy to take care of, but spawn more ghosts. There's ones that are tanky ghosts, so it's a nightmare to get rid of them. And it's all done with a mixture of tokens and dice. So your tokens are the primary way you should be getting rid of ghosts. Get the right colors, match it, do it. Like you need 2 red and a green to get rid of this ghost. But if you're not using tokens, you've got to roll these dice with the colors on it and hope you get the ones you need. So the less you can do by dice rolling, the better. But even when you think, like, this is a situation where it looks pretty normal, like this is probably like the very start of the game in terms of, oh, there's not many ghosts around, but it quickly ramps up to the point where there are ghosts everywhere. And you just constantly like, look, come on, Fu, get out of that deck. We're going to die anytime soon. We need to hurry up and get the boss. And there is no let up period where you feel like, oh, we got this. This is nice and simple. No, you're constantly on it. And that's assuming the ghost pictures themselves aren't like scary enough, because there is some weird imagery in this game when it comes to the ghosts. Like I think it was Palomori or somebody else. I forget who the artist is. I need to look it up because he's quite Piero. Yeah, he's an artist for Repos production. But some of the ghost imagery he comes up with is just so good. It looks good. You've got really freaky imagery, not like overly scary stuff, but it's trying to make that's one of the boss ones or something like that. But it just looks really cool. Yeah, there's one there, Sharp Nails Mistress, because this is Asian themed, but everything looks cool. It's just the fact that it's on your edge of your seat because you are never in a comfortable position.
Gotcha. I've never played this, but that looks like a lot of fun to me. I really like card games where you have to like fend off enemy after enemy. I think those are really fun.
As I say, Tower Defense is a good one for stress in general.
Stress. Nice.
All right. On to 6s.
Okay, so number 6 is a new game to me. I've only played it a few times. It's called Rallyman GT, and it's a dice rolling card racing game. So just by its inherent nature of being a car racing game, it's very exciting. I guess you could call it. It's very exciting. So the way you take your turn, you have your car on the track. The track is very tight. There's only 2 lanes for up to 6 cars. Yeah. So it can be very, very tight. Turn order is king. You really want to pay attention to who's going to be going first at the start of each round. But on your turn, you have these gear dice. So you have a set of dice that go up to 6. Like the 1 dice will all have 1s on it, and then 1 hazard. The 2 dice it's all 2s and 1 hazard. So and what you do is you plan out your turn. You have your little car on the track, and then each space you want to advance, you have to put a gear dice. So that's going to tell you how fast you're going, essentially. Then there's also a few break dice, which you can use to break down to the gear you're supposed to be in. There's certain corners on the track that you must be in a gear 3 or lower, or gear 2 or lower. So you have to break down for those sections of the track. So you plan out your turn, and then those dice have to be rolled to see if they succeed. If you roll a hazard sign, then you're going to have problems. If you roll 3 hazards, your car spins out of control. And bad things will happen to you depending on how fast you are going and the section of the track that you're in and the weather. So you really have to kind of figure out, when am I going to be risky and roll on my dice and maybe roll 3 hazards, or when am I going to play it safe and skip dice? So you do have an option to roll your dice all at once. It's called blind rolling, and you just, chuck them all and see what happens. But you can also take the more cautious approach and roll them individually. And if you are, going to perhaps roll 3 hazards, you can pay in tokens to skip a dice that you don't want to roll.
Yeah.
The only way. Yeah.
So racing games in general can be pretty on the tense one. I must admit, I didn't put any racing games on my list though. I did consider Camel Up, but
Camel Up, yep.
But then camel up can sometimes get to the point where it's like, yeah, well, I know I'm not going to win this because of what camel, or like it's a foregone conclusion which camel's going to win. Occasionally you get the tense moment. Downforce had a similar thing where you kind of like, yeah, this one's going to win. It's not too bad. But that's the thing. Racing games can fit this category quite well, but it's not consistent.
Right. And this game is new to me. I feel like it has the potential for so much excitement, but you can also play it safe. So I think it depends on the type of player you are. I tend to be a chucker. I just roll them all and see what happens. I find that much more enjoyable, but it's a very thematic racing game. It is so well done. I just wanted to include it on this list because it's a new favorite of mine. And, racing is on the edge of your seat. So.
Yeah, I've only played this on Board Game Arena because this is a picture from that, and it's got a pretty good implementation on there. Haven't really played it multiplayer. I tried it solo, got a bit bored by it playing solo. I think this is one that I need to get the multiplayer set up for. But I need to try it some more. But it didn't wow me at first because this one was getting hyped. Like everyone, as soon as they reprinted it, everyone was like going crazy. Like, yes, can I get a copy of Rallyman? It's like, really? It's like, when was this suddenly the hotness? But
honestly, my first experience was 2-player, and I was very underwhelmed. I was like, what is the big deal? But once you get that those extra cars on the track, it becomes very tight, and very like people will start doing riskier moves to keep in the lead. So I think that's where it gets
more interesting. I'm generally pretty risky myself, so
yeah. I think the more tight the track is, it's much more fun.
All right. Well, with mine now, this people are going to be shocked because it's very rare that anything by Alexander Pfister should end up on my top 10s. Not because I don't like the guy. The guy's great. I mean, I love the fact that even though I don't like a lot of his games, he's actually very like nice about it, and it's like sweet because you don't want the other way. But his games just aren't generally for me. I've got Maracaibo on the shelf. Not sure how much longer for, but I did not like a lot of the other ones, apart from, I suppose, Oh My Goods. That little one's pretty good. But this one he co-designed with Andreas Pelikan a long time ago, and that is Broom Service.
Oh, I love this game.
It's a great little one. I thought like, wow, yes, okay. And I got Isle of Skye. Yeah. Okay, so I do have some of his lighter games on here, but the Broom Service one, besides just looking really nice with the hand-drawn element, it's these cards. The phase where you've got to do almost like a semi-Citadels thing of, because the gist of the game is pretty straightforward. You're collecting different color potions, you're flying around the map, delivering them for points. That's pretty much the gist. Simple enough. It's just that to decide how you're moving, how you're delivering is all done by those middle cards. And the phase involves you having 4 of them that you've got to choose out of what ones are in the game, depending on player count. That's already hard enough to do. But then once you've got those 4 cards, I think it's 4, you then take it in turns from first player to flip over one and say, I am the wood witch, or whatever it's called, the mountain witch, and that might say I can move across the mountains or deliver in mountains. But you've got a choice of saying the cowardly or the brave. If you say cowardly, the effect isn't as good, but you guaranteed to do it. If you say the brave, though, you wait until the next person ever of you claims whether they're going to be the brave mountain witch instead. Because if someone else has the card, they can play it, say they're cowardly or brave, and so on. So if the tense part of being on the edge of your seat is that I cannot relax in this phase, because I will play the card, especially if I've gone first, thinking I need to get the brave ability. I'm doing this. No one, please screw this up as it goes around, and raised voices will be heard as soon as that last player in the round goes, no, I'm the brave man. Oh, you're kidding me. This can be a very anger-inducing game, but in a good way. It is a good stressful day, but nothing. I mean, I didn't put Citadels on the list or Mission Red Planet on this list, despite those phases can be semi-tense. They were kind of shortlisted, but there is nothing more tense in this sort of game, role selection game, than trying to decide whether you're going to be brave or cowardly with any of these cards.
Yeah, I played this one time, and it was a while ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I thought it was really cute and fun. I remember it being really fun, but
well,
yeah,
I couldn't
recall it as angsty. Yeah,
Oh, it's angsty like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first played, I thought like, look, everyone's banged on about Broom Service, fine, but it's like, oh, it's got Alexander Pfister's name on it. And well, is this going to be too Yuri and dry? I don't know, but Olive Skies on my shelf. I'll give it props. I'll give it a try, because I think with his designs, I go for his lighter stuff, fine, just not the heavier stuff.
Gotcha.
But I thought, oh, let's give one a try. Everyone's going it. I thought this looks good, if nothing else. And I like role selection as a mechanic, so this one kind of worked out. I had no idea I was signing up for anything this tense. It's like, okay, this game really fooled me as to how punishing this can be. But it's a light game, nice and easy, and everybody's getting screwed about it. I mean, you don't ever feel like one person gets away with murder all the time. Is that at some point they're going to get screwed. But, ooh, yeah, do not play this one if you're easy to anger, because it will go badly for your game. It's like top 10 anger-inducing games. This would be on it without a shadow of a doubt. Pretty high up. All right, we're going to move on to 5s.
All right, number 5 is Letters to Whitechapel. This is another All Against Many, and it is a hidden movement. And the premise is one player, the one is Jack the Ripper, and everyone else is the police officers trying to locate his exact position on the board. So Jack the Ripper is trying to take 5 victims before the end of the game. So he is keeping track of his movements on a tablet that is hidden, and he is moving around on these white circled numbered spots throughout the province of Whitechapel. And the police officers are also moving around, but they're on different tracks. Like the white spots have different trails that intersect with where the policemen patrol the streets. So they can intersect where he is, but can't actually be on his spots. And so when a police officer is on a square, and they can question if Jack the Ripper is either in a circle next to them, or they can ask for a clue, like, was he there? So in a round, like the police officers will work together questioning, and then maybe accusing, like, or trying to arrest Jack the Ripper to see if he's in a specific circle. Now, each round, the Jack player is trying to get back to its hideout. He has one number that he always must return to end the round. So as the game progresses, you eventually close in on a location that he keeps going back to. And you can kind of like, as the game goes on, it intensifies, because you're like, we know he's in here somewhere. And at some points, like, you get an idea. You're like, he's in this area, he's here somewhere, but there's maybe 2 or 3 places where you just have to go with your gut and guess. So
I find myself to be a pretty good Jack.
Yeah.
I feel like when I've played this game, I do see the fact that I've had a couple of games where I'm like you guys have got no clue. I am Jack the Ripper, and I'm getting away with everything in this game. Fear me, all is good. I must admit, I always like being the hidden person more than the deductor in all of
trying to figure out
games.
I haven't been Jack, but I have caught Jack. And a lot of times you have to ignore what all the other detectives will be being like, we have to do this. He's obviously here. And you just get a gut feeling where he actually is. Because he could be anywhere. He could be, in 3 different locations near you. So it's very fun. It's very intense. Like, it definitely builds in suspense. And I'm sure being Jack would be kind of like the Mysterium ghost, where you're like just trying to hide your reaction.
I mean, that is the sort of thing with this, and I mean, I don't want to. I suppose this works against me with another choice on my this and that. I mean, this is definitely on the basis of, I would agree if I'm Jack. I don't find that with these hidden movement games, if I'm the person seeking out the culprit, it's anywhere near as
intense
thing.
Yeah.
Well, because you're sort of going, well, I'm trying to figure out a puzzle here, whereas it's not, trying to figure out where he is. It's just, I'm just trying to solve this puzzle. Whereas if you are the hidden person, it's like, please don't go there, please don't go there, please don't go.
Right? Yeah.
That adds up to 11. This one was solid, but I wish it was shorter.
It is long.
So long.
Yeah. It is long.
It's the same problem as Fury of Dracula. It's like both of them are solid enough games, but my God, they go on for too long.
They do go on long. That's true.
Up the player count, and there are shorter versions of this that have been done, like more condensed ones.
I guess the length of it kind of makes it more epic for me. Like you invested time into it, so the desire to catch them becomes even more strong.
It's an event when it does happen. That is the key to it. All right, number 5 for me is going back to the shall we say the co-opness ones. And if it's a co-op game where you can kind of predict what's going on, it's not as stressful. So like, all right, if you were to take, say, Pandemic, I don't find that one as stressful because when the cards get put on top, you sort of know what's going to turn up. Yes, you don't know what order, but they're there. You know these ones are going to repeat, and Pandemic becomes more of a puzzle. This one, any decision you make is generally a half-decent decision, but you cannot predict a thing that happens in Flashpoint Fire Rescue. This one is just everything can go to pot quickly in this game. It generally will, because simple premise enough. Your firefighters go save the people from a burning building. What more do you need to know? And the mechanics are straightforward. You've just got action points. You spend them to move, quench fire, save people, open doors, hack down walls, whatever, shoot the fire engine gun. And it's just spend the points and keep going until either the whole place burns down or you get enough victims out. Pretty straightforward. But with the Ghost Stories one, I mentioned that it never lets up. This one does let up at times if you're doing well enough. I mean, this is a pretty bad situation here where most things are on fire. And regularly, especially on the harder difficulties, you'll get this. But you've only got so much time before this place burns down, because the more explosions that happen, which is when you roll a die on the grid to see what turns up in fire, get a place with fire, it explodes, it all fans out in a big line, you get damage cubes, so at some point you run out of cubes and the whole place falls down. Especially when you're very short on cubes, it's tense as all get out to try and get the last 2 victims out, anything. There's like, but what about this one over there? It's fine, it's the cat, we can leave it, let's go.
Leave the cat.
I would never leave the cat. No, I would always get the cat. But I do have a promo one for a goldfish, and I'm like, look, seriously, human female goldfish. I'm gonna make a stand here and say the goldfish takes it.
That's funny.
But there's some
gets
weird.
Spoiled.
There are some. She said it, not me. But, there are. Some good promo ones out there, but this one can let up. You could be in a state where it's like, yeah, we got the fire under control, this is all going well, but it only takes so many die rolls in the wrong places to suddenly cause chaos again, and then it's like, uh-oh, we got too complacent, like go again. And that's tense enough for me. Not just like, oh, everything's on fire, we're in trouble. It's more everybody who I'm teaching this to goes, yeah, we're fine, we've got this, nothing's wrong. It's like, uh-oh, because they don't know. Because they don't know what can happen in this game. They think it's all nice and easy, and it's like,
right.
And it's like, you wait until we roll 2 6. Oh, like, and then they instantly regret it. But you cannot predict the fire. That's the thing. You roll on the grid, the fire appears. So it's not like, oh, I know it's going to appear over here because of X card. No, it's roll 2 dice and see where it goes, because it's fire. You can't predict fire.
Right.
Yes, it has scientific properties, to say how hot it is and how it moves, but
not a board game.
Well, when you're in a fire situation, you can't tell if something's going to explode over there or something's going to react. It's just, and some people fault the game for it, but I'm sorry, that's one of its best bits, I think, in my opinion. The fact that you cannot predict what's going to happen. That's one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, I've never played this, but I'm really excited to hear you talk about it. It sounds a lot more fun than I realized. I actually hadn't heard that much about it, so I'm more interested now.
This would work well for you, actually, for 2 reasons. I mean, one, it's quite a simple game to get into. If you want to make it meaty, you do what I do, and I've got like a bunch of expansions for it, but you could just get the base game and you'd be fine. It's easy enough to learn, but it's got a beginner family variant and the advanced variant. And the advanced variant throws in characters you can play and a couple of other special rules, but you could play the family variant in a different setup. But the family variant is literally, it's set up in a prescribed way, no character powers, just go through the motions. And it's very simple. Like, you could teach your kids this. I don't think you'd have trouble with. And firefighting is a pretty good theme to teach them. So.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, safety.
But even just safety, but just like, noble cause. But you could teach them the family version of this game and get enjoyment out of that. And then once they got more comfortable with it, you could progress to the advanced part. So it's a good family weight one.
Very cool.
All right, moving on to 4s. I've not played a lot of the games that you've mentioned. Actually, have I played some of the ones you've mentioned? Kind of thing.
That makes me happy.
All right, well, half and half.
Half and half. Okay. Well, my next one is a kid's game, and it's Rhino Hero. Have you played Rhino Hero?
Who hasn't played that one at some, whether they want to or not, who hasn't?
Whether they want to, I know. It ends up at a board game night. So I really enjoy it. It's a dexterity card game, and you're basically building a house of cards. But this is an apartment building of cards. Everyone has cards that they are, like, they're dealt out a hand of so many cards at the beginning of the game, and you have to add a new floor onto the apartment building on your turn, and then add the next floor for the next person to build on. And whatever card you place on top, it might have an effect, like the next person will have to draw extra cards, which is always bad. You're always trying to get rid of your cards in this game. Or it might be a Rhino Hero card where you have to move this little meeple from one floor onto another, which is extremely precarious, especially at the end of the game as the tower starts to lean to one side. So it's just by nature very precarious and nail biting, and it's fun. It's just a really fun, short, quick one. So,
is it Rhino Hero specifically? Because I mean, I haven't played the normal version as much. I mean, I get this is more of a kid-friendly one, so there. But the Rhino Hero Super Battle one is the one that I tend to see being played, which by the sound from what I've played of it,
so much about it. Yeah, there's more characters, I guess, that you're trying to knock over. Or you're battling them by rolling dice to see which one goes on. So I like my games a little bit more on the simplified. And I'm like, we're going from this size box to this size box for the same experience. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't tried the bigger one. I happily would, but I really like Rhino Hero. I like it for its simplicity and small size and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much more complicated in a sense. I mean, as far as I remember, it's like you've got to try and hang these little monkeys on the floors as well. Precariousness. But it's more like if your hero goes on the same floor as another hero, you roll off. Whoever loses has to move back down. So obviously that's more precariousness. Apart from that, I don't think there's many other rules. It's just obviously you've got a bit more of an intricate system of how this thing is built. Right,
there's bigger boards to build with.
Yeah, you've got a more wider building as well as just the big tall scaffolding that the other one is, like the tall dread tower for Rhino Hero. I must admit, I didn't actually think of dexterity games when I was doing this.
Are you serious? I had to. There's quite a few I had on my list originally, but.
Oh, they're perfectly valid. I mean, I don't own any. That's the thing. Dexterity games is kind of one of those things where I'll play them every now and again. I'm not as good at them, in terms of although I think it's more like what type of dexterity. I don't mind these balancing ones. I'll balance it precariously but the ones where you got aim something like coconuts, for example, aiming the things.
Yeah, I don't like flicking games typically.
Yeah,
I had Crokinole on for a long time, for a good part of
my fingers, that one.
Yeah, it's more like the golfer's version of dexterity. It's kind of fancy, and it didn't quite have the same I don't know, excitement involved in it, so I skipped it. But I do like Crokinole.
Yeah, I can't think if there's any dexterity games that I've gone.
Ice Cool. I don't know if.
Again, it's flicking and it's really hard to do that one.
That hurt. Those penguins hurt. They're very dense.
But the Beast of Balance one was a weird, complicated one. Junkart, I got a bit bored with it. Same with Meeple Circus.
There's a new.
There was one I did, like, I can't remember what it was called. It was pretty straightforward. You just had like a bunch of like blocks and you piled them on top, like different shaped blocks. But you bid little diamonds to say like, oh, whether you're going to put a block on or not. It was like Pangu or something, like weird name out of nowhere. I forget what it was, and I did used to have it. It was like the cheapest dexterity game of building blocks ever, but it just never really hit the table. I think it's like, okay, occasionally at a convention I feel like playing a dexterity game, particularly if I've had a drink or two, but I don't tend to seek those out. But yeah, I have to admit, they are perfect for this kind of list if they're done right.
I like Rhino Hero because it's a great icebreaker. Especially for like kids that aren't really used to gaming yet. You can be like, look, it's all just about having fun. So
yeah, I want to try Tokyo Highway. I've not tried that one yet. That's kind of like the next. Or Minara. Those two I would like to give a try. So with mine, this one, a deduction game, like pure deduction game on this list, which most people would not probably expect. But with this one, it's about that end game. All throughout the game, you were already trying to figure something out. It's awkward guests, and it's already a hard deduction game. It's basically Cluedo done right, if you're willing to accept it's more meaty than the average game. But the whole game is the traditional, right, I need to find out who did the murder, what they used, and how they did it. You know, what their motive was. It's similar, but just not identical to Cluedo. But there's no roll and move. You are figuring it out from a board where you can see, if I can see it, where you can see where they could possibly move. You make your own notation. There's all the different weapons and motives and the characters that you interact with. But instead of rolling a die and going to a room, you essentially ask, like, oh, I want to find out more about Jeffrey. What's Jeffrey got to do with this? And those cards that you see at the top, if I can find a better picture, I will, is you're passing them between players to say that, right, I want to find out about Jeffrey. Does anybody have any cards related to Jeffrey? And if you do, you offer up so many cards that tell them something about that character, and they're valued from 1 to 3 based on how much of a clue they give. You know, a 3 gives a lot of information, a 1 only gives a tiny bit, but you're effectively trading these cards with each other. So as you give out clues, you're hopefully getting some in return, hopefully not information you already know. And it's a good amount of interaction between players as to, you know, what kind of cards you give. I can't find a better example, but something like this, like the service staff reports none of the guests entered the study from the shed. So you're thinking, right, well, the murder took place there. If they couldn't go through the study, then it can't be these characters because they said they were in the next room, and you start piecing it together. That already is tense enough, but what's really tense is it's obviously a race to whoever does it first. And you're waiting for that one person to sort of say, right, I know what it is. They check it, and they may get it right, they may get it wrong. But you get to a point in the game where you feel like I'm close to figuring it out. The only problem is, so's the person next to you and possibly someone else. So you start closing in, and it's so tense, thinking like, I've almost figured it out. Just shut up. Just don't figure this out before I do. And you'll get to that point where it's like, I just need to know one more thing. Otherwise I'm gambling. And then somebody else comes in and says, no, I figured it out. I was literally like one clue off and I couldn't find it. But waiting for that part of the game, end game, where you're just waiting for someone to say, I know it, whether it's you or another player that you know is on the same wavelength. It's like, oh, come on, one more. Just give me that one more clue.
Yeah, I haven't played this one. I really like the artwork in this. It just is very intriguing to me. I'm not a deduction person. I really struggle with deduction games. But I don't know. I like the story context to it. I always felt like I would like Clue if it had more story to it. If there's more there than just the murder, the weapon, the room, and the person that did it, you know?
I mean, I wouldn't say this as a massive story in it. I mean, yes, you find out their motive, but it's not like you get a whole like intricate backstory to what's going on. It's just the motive replaces a different thing. I mean, the murder takes place in the study. That's always the case. It's just that the map in front of you shows the layout of the house, and it's a case of, right, well, if someone did the murder in the study, they need to have gone and retrieved this weapon and gone via this route. But the motive is just another thing you figure out. So, there's not really much of a backstory, but it's just the fact that there's none of this, all right, I'll roll. I didn't get an 8, therefore I didn't make it to the hole, therefore I lose. And I'm nearly there. Oh, somebody calls you in for questioning, therefore you got to get teleported across the board. None of that horrible stuff. This is literally the trading of those cards, and it's definitely, I think, I don't know, this and Search for Planet X. They're on toe-to-toe with which one I like best out of the two, like, proper deduction games. I'm probably going to say... Search for Planet X because it's a bit easier to get to the table and it has that cool app with it. This one's a little bit more involved. But it all works with it. All right,
cool.
Where's that? Put us now on threes.
Threes. All right, so my number 3 is Ponzi Scheme. And this is a game... What?
Ew.
Ew. Have you played it?
Yes.
Yes?
Regrettably, I've played it.
No. Okay. Well,
I'm waiting for the justification for why this is stressful.
Okay. Well, I find it not stressful. I find it exciting and a bit of a bluffing and kind of push your luck game. Because you're taking these like phony investments. You're making phony investments for people and promising that you're gonna, make them all this money. But really you're just spending that money trying to get more industry tokens. But the way you get those industry tokens is by the trading, the hidden secret trading, where you'll offer someone a certain amount of money. And what I love about this game is the fact that that person can, turn that offer around and just offer you the same amount you offered them and take your industry token. I find that aspect of this game the crux of the whole game, where you have to offer them the right amount. Otherwise, they will just take your industry tokens. But if you can read that they were getting really low on cash and they're going to go bankrupt, and the person to go bankrupt is going to trigger the end of the game. So you don't want to be the first person to go bankrupt. If they're really low on cash, then they'll take whatever you offer them. But you got to read that. So I really enjoy that aspect of this.
The thing is, more people are going to side with you than me on this one, because I know a lot of fans of Ponzi Scheme. And
yeah, fair, I don't know any, so I'm so excited. If I can hear from anyone that likes this, I'd be like, woohoo!
There'll be somebody in the comments, I'm sure, that will say like, oh, this is a great game. Why do you hate it? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ponzi schemes irk me anyway because I have not necessarily been victim to one. I've kind of seen them in action and the whole concept of a Ponzi scheme just doesn't make sense to me. It's like because everything you do in this game kind of goes against all accountancy. It's like doesn't hurt. But I don't know. I played this. I have played it a couple of times, and well, actually more than a couple because it was. Not the longest game in the world, so it did get played times. And it turns up at some conventions where they want something to do for 45 minutes. But I mean, even when I've won this game, I don't even know how I've won it. I find myself just going through the motions, like, here's a monetary figure, I'll try and get this token. What on earth is going on? And I just lose the plot every time.
Gotcha. Well, the thing is, it's been misrepresented. Like on Board Game Geek, it says that it's a economy game, and it's not at all. It's definitely a push your luck, betting and bluffing game. And I think if you approach it with that mindset, that really changes the whole aspect of it.
Anything that's got money in it will be economic per Board Game Geek. That's normal. But
you don't need the money to win. You need the investment token. So although money is part of it, they are not what you're trying to collect. You just need it to get investment tokens. So anyway, I'm a big fan of it, but I totally understand. I understand that there are a lot of people that aren't a fan. But
it was short enough that it wasn't too bad if you fell behind, but it's like with most Ponzi schemes. If you fall below or fall behind, I think you ain't catching up.
In my mind, when I first played it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of money. What am I going to do? And then I had a moment where I realized everyone is almost out of money. We're all almost out of money. This is just a race to see who can stay in this the longest. That's what it's all
who
about.
bankrupts first.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it wasn't a complete whitewash. I think, like, as an accountant, this one sort of just went against everything, every code I have for being an accountant.
Pretty much anyone that has good money sense hates this game, because you have to go against good money sense to win.
And it's just like, no, I'm good with my money, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm much more of like I've always enjoyed the bluffing of poker, and that I get that same enjoyment from this. So
I do like the bluffing with the poker. I think I didn't find I had a lot to bluff with. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm totally got money. Well, it's like, no, of course you haven't, Luke. It's like, we know you haven't got money. It's like,
well, what would happen to me is people would be like, you don't have money. You have to take this money I'm offering for your industry token. And I always turned them down. I always turned them down. And then I would take the biggest, next like crummy investment that was out on the table to just get me through the next round. So anyway, I like doing that to people.
As like I say, more people are going to be on your side than mine on that one. It's got its fans. It has got its fans. It's a cult classic from what I see. This one, I contemplated putting this one as my number one because my top three were really hard to rank. But this one can fall flat occasionally. It's more of a case of if I'm teaching brand new players, this one isn't quite as like stressful or edge of your seat. But if I've got some people at my local game club who have got addicted to this game since I've shown them it. And
that's always a good sign.
Well, that's the thing. But when we play it, even though they like it even more than I do, we're trying to sort of like, we're syncing up, because this was one of those few games where the whole art of not talking is actually something that actually works in a game for the crew. Because I liked Hanabi, hated the game, will absolutely burn every copy of The Mind I see put in front of me. Not the biggest fan of those ones. So when this came out, I thought, I don't know, is this another one of those? But then it said trick taking. Okay, how on earth do you combine trick taking with co-op? And I got really surprised because I expected to go into this not liking it and came out with a copy because I wanted to keep on playing it. But this one, for those not, because most people I think have heard of this one by now, but it is very much everything you know about trick taking applies. Play a suit, follow the suit, highest number wins the suit. But it's not a case of winning tricks just willy-nilly. You've got 50 different mission scenarios with different rule sets, which may say so-and-so player needs to win yellow 4, this one needs to win the green 5, whatever, and there's other variant rules which I won't go into detail, but it's generally you've got to win specific tricks, maybe in specific orders for specific players. And the problem is you can't talk. The only communication you have is a token that you can put on a card to say highest, lowest, or only in your hand. But all the cards are there, it's perfect information, and you're seeing cards get played, but because you can't talk to each other, you're trying to think, like, what if I play this red 4, how are they going to respond? Do they have a bunch of reds, but we need you to win the red 3 at some point? So have I just screwed us over by playing this red? When do I play it? And all that is already tense enough, but because nobody else can talk, you think, right, I know that if I play this card, this will work, but does Bob over there also know this? Because I'll play my red 4 and it's like, this is an easy thing. You should play your card, Bob. Why aren't you reacting? Because and then they play a bad card. It's like,
oh no. Yeah.
And it goes around. But this is, I was so surprised on how much of like good stress this one caused, because the lack of communication normally is like, oh, this is just a luck fest in other games. Right. But with the crew, it works because you've got perfect information with the cards that are out, but you can make educated guesses with your knowledge of trick taking. So you know that someone's got to follow a suit. You know that if someone hasn't got, like, somebody might have said, right, I've got only one green in my hand and it's this one. And it's like, well, okay, so if I play a green, you can play any other card. So if they do that, and when you start piecing that knowledge together, you start being able to make an educated guess of, right, so-and-so's got this, or so-and-so is the key here. And sometimes you might play a game and it falls apart, or you've got no chance to win. But there are others where you've just got that one extra trick to win. You're so close to running out of cards. It's like, you can do it. I hope you're on the same wavelength with me, because if we're not, it ain't going to work. And it surprised me for a game that is, 60 seconds to 5 minutes a game.
It is short, yeah. I played this one time. I have to say I was not in love with it.
This is your Ponzi scheme.
This is my Ponzi scheme, maybe not. I would say that I would try it again. Honestly, I am a Pinochle player. I've been playing for years. And Pinochle.
What's that?
It's a trick-taking game.
That's all right.
Do you know Pinochle?
Nope. We'll go into that another time, but no, that's a new one.
You might feel differently about the crew if you played Pinochle. It's a classic trick-taking game that my Daniel, my husband's family, introduced me to when we started dating, and I just was kind of like indoctrinated into it. But it's teams. You play 2 people against 2 people, and so when I played the crew, I just had a different mindset. I'm like, how is this cooperative thing gonna work? And also trying to figure out everybody, like what everyone was gonna play, was just beyond me. So I was like, I just want to play Pinochle.
It's not easy when you get a lot of players, I admit. Like when you've got 5 players in this, it's like, okay, we're probably going to lose this. But
I might just not have the mind for it. Yeah.
3 and 4, I've got it to work. And sometimes we lose a bunch of scenarios, but it's great when you do get that victory. But not since Hanabi have I had a silent communication game where I'm like, yes, this one works. And I thought this could bomb hard if it's just another The Mind. But and especially when it was taking 2 genres that don't make sense together, and it still made it work. It's not my favorite game ever. I mean, I think I gave it an 8, which is still high, but it's not one that I bring out all the time. But I know that when it comes out, it's going to get played about 10 times in a row. And my mates at the game club do request it a lot, so I pretty much always shove it in my bag because it's small footprint. But I gave it props for its innovation, because this one took some like major thinkiness to try and work out, and I'm always up for an innovative game, especially in this day and age where everything's all recycled.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Enough. I'm surprised. I mean, I didn't know if you'd played this or not. I thought if you had played it, it would make a list, because this people in the chat, when they're looking in the comments later, I've got to be on my side with this one, unless they hate the game. That's
like I played it once, and it wasn't like, it didn't strike a chord, and I wanted to get another game to the table. So the people I had been playing with had been playing it, and I just jumped in the last round, and I was like, I'm done. So I didn't honestly probably get a full experience of it, but my first impression was like, I'd rather play Pinochle. So
well, with no knowledge of Pinochle, I can stick with the cruiser.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to try and explain that.
All right, on to 2. Has we got any more? I mean, we had a Ponzi scheme Euro. Oh no, I wouldn't call it a Euro. It's a different sort of game. So
yeah, it's a weird one.
With those in mind, what could we have for our last 4? Let's find out.
All right, so my number 2 could easily be my number 1. It's very, I'm still not sure about it, but anyway, my number 2 is Manila. And this is, have you played Manila?
I'm trying to picture it. I think I have not played it.
It looks tropical. There's like boats on the cover.
Yeah, I'm picturing it because I know of it. Never played it, but I was not expecting, because is this a midweight Euro, or is it more of a lightweight?
It's a betting game. This is what it is, Luke. Auction bidding, worker placement, betting, and dice rolling game. So
with the DVD?
It's like all my favorite things.
Was that a DVD I just saw there? Has it got a disc with it?
I don't think so.
I'm curious what that is, but
yeah, I don't know. Now this game is a game where you're betting on the boats coming in. Now it's not a boat racing game. All these boats are doing is delivering shipments of goods. The cargo that you are dealing with here is silk, ginger, nutmeg, and jade. And
insert resources here. I'm sure the fee.
Yeah, just resources there. Yeah. So it's just 4 resources, and everyone at the beginning of each round, it has an opportunity. If they have money, they can purchase. I think they get stock cards. So you kind of invest in the different. You have a little bit of skin in each stock or each good that's coming into port. At the beginning of the game, there's sorry, at the beginning of
stock.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it's not a stock game. All right, just get that out of your head. So the beginning of the round, everyone there's an auction phase, and everyone is going to like bid to see who's going to be the port master, and the port master is basically choosing what cargo is going to go in the 3 boats. There's 4 cargo, 3 boats, so someone's going to get like skipped. And then once that's all decided, like what cargo is going in the boats and coming into port, that's when the interesting part comes in, because as these boats come into port, people can place workers on the boats, and then dice are rolled for each good. So like the brown dice is for the nutmeg, and the blue dice is for the silk, and so on. So you roll those dice, and that's going to determine which boat is going to move. If you're rolling high, then that good is going to get delivered into port, and the value of that stock is going to go up, and those players that place their workers on the boats are going to reap the rewards for that good. Now, if the rolls are low and they don't make it into port by the end of the round, those boats are going to go into the shipyard, and it's going to be all lost. Like they don't earn anything. So in addition to putting workers on boats, you can also put a worker on an insurance spot. You get $10 as soon as you take it, but any losses, any ships that don't make it into port, you have to cover the losses.
So is this kind of push your luck again with the dice aspect?
Yes. There's also pirate spots. You can take a pirate spot, and if a shipment doesn't make it, they just come short of getting into the harbor on spot 13, the pirates take over that shipment, and they get all the profit from that cargo. So
can I play as the pirate?
Yeah, and so there's 4 dice rolls in a round. You roll 4 times, and every time you can place a worker in a new spot depending on how those dice rolls were going. So it's very much a casino feel. You're just rolling dice and making bets.
That's definitely
so much fun.
On your list. Casino, dice bidding, like push your luck money things. Because Ponzi scheme can be argued to be a little bit like that. Definitely your first or second one from before Las Vegas is definitely on this side. This is essentially the Eurolite, like the
this is the ultimate of my favorite type of game.
Yeah, the medium weight version of Las Vegas by the sound of it. Like, same sort of deal, but a bit more meat to it. But definitely, you've got a thing about this push your luck with money.
I do. God help me if I ever end up in Las Vegas.
Okay,
I have to keep myself away, because...
I was going to say, you're not involved in a lot of this betting stuff in real life, are you?
No, not at all. That's why I play board games. That's why I manifest it all in board games. So that's vanilla.
This is one that I pictured. I've just not. It's another one of those where like I know of it, just never seen it to get a chance to play it. But
it's an old game. I think it's. I don't know when it was originally published, but a friend of ours recently.
5?
Yeah, it's old. So we got a reprint of it last year, and the only place we could buy it was on the German Amazon website.
Yeah, it got reprinted, but not widespread.
It wasn't widespread. So yeah, that's why it kind of like entered into our world, and now I'm like, I just really like it. So
I say the old ones are still good ones. I'm not a cult of the new subscribers, so some of these older games still have merit. I'd certainly try it. I'll play any game. I've always said like, look, there are some games that might scream out, Luke, you're going to hate this game, but it's like, yeah, I'll play it once at least, because there are games that are exceptions to the rule where it's like, oh yeah, this game really shouldn't be one I like, but I love it for X reasons. Some of these hidden gems do surface, but I'll add this one to the list. It's definitely one I've heard of.
Oh, good.
I've just never seen it in person.
Yeah, it's worth at least one try.
Of that. Alrighty. Well, I would say I only started board gaming properly 7 years ago. Before then, I obviously was into games but I was more role play, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, very specific niche areas as opposed to widespread board games, and stuff with the family would have been old school stuff. So by the time Ticket to Ride got released, I mean, in 2004, what was I doing then? I think I was like partway through university, and I think I was too busy playing things like Steve Jackson games, like those horrible ones before. But, you know, Munchkins and that, which is like I regret playing now. But then there were one or two ones that I played that I didn't realize were going to be staples, like my Citadels one up there when I played it in its small box version. I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy it like 10 years down the line. So
yeah,
some of those popped up. All right. Number 2, we mentioned timed games before. This is my only, I think, timed pick. Although the whole game is not timed. You know, you essentially get a time phase, try to calm down as much as you can, and then go timed again, calm down, timed again, and it's always back and forth. But it's based on an IP for a video game that I've very much enjoyed. Don't play it anymore because I've sort of run out of titles for it. But XCOM as a timed game is definitely stressful in a good way, because this one, much like the game or the video game, you're not going out on the missions per se, but you've got to have a timed phase where the aliens sort of turn up. And the app, which is fantastic, like one of the first app implementations that took control of a game, is telling you that in these cases, like flying saucers are over certain continents, or aliens have come into your base, or but each of you has your own role. So a commander role, a flight officer, I forget his name, the sergeant, and like the tech guy, the scientist. And each of you's got a very different game you're playing, but the app tells you when each role's got to do something. So commander, assess the budget, like have we got enough, allocate the resources to the other players. So scientist, right, now take 3 cards off the deck, choose which tech you're going to research, try and research it. And this could be something for the commander, it could be guns for the sergeant, you know, everybody needs something. But then the sergeant, when it's their turn, has got to allocate different units to the mission to say, right, we're going to try and do this mission because otherwise this will go to pot. So everyone's got an important role, and it's a full co-op. You know, this is survive the alien invasion until you get through all the objective cards. But man, is it stressful. Even when you're like that brief repercussion when you are that brief period where you get to rest is very much like, right, okay, just check the pacemakers of any. Yeah, calm down, because that time phase goes quite quick. You've only got so many seconds on each bit to do your part, so everyone needs to be kind of on the ball with what they're doing, which does make teaching it hard on anything other than easy difficulty. But it's not easy. I mean, this thing is like punishing you. The aliens are not letting up, but you know, even while you're recovering, it's kind of like we are this close to our base being destroyed, or we really need to get I forget if it's die rolls or die roll successes to do the mission. You know, scientist is getting badgered for not giving the sergeant enough guns to work with, that kind of thing, even though they're trying their best. And even the commander, you know, the budget thing is hard enough because they've got to assess between crisis cards, which are like, this bad thing's going to happen. Pick one of 2. Oh, great. So I've got to pick something bad to happen. How do you make that decision? But then on top of that, it's like, you've got 14 million credits to assess this round, but everybody's got different things. Like the scientist needs so many credits to do re-rolls. The sergeant needs credits to send people out. So, and you can discuss between players, but you've only got so many seconds. So it's frantic throughout that whole period of, look, I can give you 4, 3, you 2, but I need 2 more. And it's like, I don't have 2 more. Okay? I'm the accountant. I say how much money you get.
I was going to say, like, that sounds like a role for an accountant. Like, that would not be for me.
If I'm not the flight officer, my favorite role is the scientist, but because I like doing all the different techs. But if I'm not the flight officer because they control the app, I'm the commander usually, because it's like, look, if somebody's going to be doing the remedial math bit,
right?
You just said they're done. But it's a wonderfully thematic game. That app is fantastic. It's got the soundtrack, the proper voices and music and sound effects for the game. But yeah, that time phase is you're on the edge of your seat and panicking like crazy.
So is this like something that you'd want to kind of have an interest in the video game before you played it? Or is it like anyone would get into it?
I think anyone could get into it, but it's got enough Easter eggs that you would recognize stuff in the game. I mean, some of this stuff is in the game, like some pictures or like, the plasma cannon you use. And the aliens will be familiar. I mean, anybody could get into this and just think it's a generic sci-fi agent thing, like Independence Day. But if you've played the games, like, I mean, I'm not an XCOM expert. I mean, I didn't play a lot of the original ones. I just had a phase where I had some spare time. It was on Steam sale cheap, and I just bought XCOM Beyond Within, or whatever it was, Enemy Within, and XCOM 2 at the same time, and just binged the whole 2 games.
Gotcha.
The stuff I like about them, stuff I don't. I don't play on stupidly hard difficulty, and it can be frustrating when, you know, it tells you how accurate your shot is. It says 99%, and somehow, despite the fact the alien's right in front of you, you still miss because it's turn-based. It's like frustrating that. But if you've played the game, you'll recognize who these two are. You know, the cyber disc, that pain in the butt, you know, enemy that comes in and is armored up, the sector.
And me, like, I have no idea, but I would probably figure it out pretty fast.
Yeah, you do not need to have played the game. It just adds to the immersion factor if you have.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't recommend this game to people who are not used to time games, though.
Okay.
And it's a hard one to get to the table because it's better when everybody has some idea of what's going on. Trying to be teaching 4 very brand new players this can be quite tricky. But, well, it's not that, but it will make the game harder, and you need to play on the easiest difficulty because obviously they're still learning how to do their bit. But when people are kind of on the same wave, like this is definitely one that favors repeat plays more than taking to a convention and just saying, "Hey, do you want to try this game out?" Which is a bit of a problem. But I can play it solo. But you try controlling 4 roles by yourself. That's stressful.
My brain, ouch.
It's stressful, but it's enjoyable. I mean, part of me wants to get it out, but I ain't got time. But it's not tonight. But it's, you got to do a lot of micromanagement with that. So, without further ado, I've spent too long rabbiting about that. What is top picks?
All right, number 1.
Surprise me.
What do you think it is? Like, do you have any clues?
I wouldn't have a clue. I mean, like I said, you've got like a bigger genre like of games that you could pick because of like family orientated. But even then, you had Ponzi Scheme on here, which I never would have guessed at all, and like Trick Takers on. So I got no idea.
All right. Well, number 1 is Firefly, the board game. So this
I would not expect. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like kind of what you were talking about, where I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but to certain people, I would 100% recommend it because it's so much fun if you are a Firefly fan.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't recommend this game to everybody, but I would wholeheartedly tell everybody to hurry up and watch Firefly, because if you haven't, shame on you. But
Exactly. Yes, definitely. So what I find about this game, I really wanted to include a sandbox game. It's one of my favorite types of board games, and it's also pick up and deliver. So you have this like these goals that you're constantly trying to juggle throughout the game. But the sandbox elements of board gaming is really special for me because everything feels like it's in reach but out of reach, and it's a little overwhelming. I really have to like focus and like figure out what is my purpose in this game when I'm playing a sandbox game. But I really love this style. So for this game, you actually have your own little Firefly ship, and you have to, hire crew, upgrade your tech. You have to avoid the Reavers. You have to avoid the Alliance. Like, it's everything about the show that makes it great that you are, playing around with in this game. And the most nerve-wracking part is just traveling. So
that's what I was curious about, because I'll get onto my thoughts on the game later, but being your number 1 for edge of your seat, that's what I was curious
the traveling. And a lot of people are just like, they should do traveling differently because this is such a pain. Every time you move through a space, you have to flip a card, and that card may say, smooth sailing, nothing happens, or everything happens. Your crew is going to get, lost. You're going to lose your cargo. You're going to lose contraband, whatever it is, whether you're running into Reavers or the Alliance or just a breakdown. If you aren't prepared in one turn, you can lose everything. So it's a little brutal in that respect, but I find that it's so much fun because of those high stakes. And I mean, the whole game is just coded in like flavor text from the show. There's a lot of attention to detail. There's a lot of like little, um, you can hire the whole crew if you want, like from the show. And there's all sorts of like inside jokes but like I said, and it's a really hard, long game. So it's not for everybody, but if you like Firefly, it is such a good representation of how the game, like, you feel like you're in the show.
I think that last sentence kind of summed up of what's on the Sega. I mean, I give it props that it did represent the theme really well. This is kind of Gale Force 9's stick. Is like mechanically their games are a little bit on the dodgy side, but thematically they get the themes well.
They get it, yeah.
And I love Firefly. I can't remember how I came across it. I think probably a case of somebody mentioned it and I thought, fine, sounds like a cool concept, and then was hooked. And then when I found out the history behind why it got cancelled and that, I was enraged. So,
yes. Yes.
Actually, no, I know what happened. I watched Serenity first, the movie.
Right. That's
it looked like a cool sci-fi, and I'd heard of Firefly, and I thought, let's just jump into the movie and see it. It should be a good laugh. Yeah. Got hooked on the movie, but then obviously thought, well, I don't know these characters, but still, this was a good fun movie. So then I went back to the series and pieced it all together from start to finish. And
that's so funny. Yeah.
I fell in love with it.
But that's my husband's story too. He saw it in the theater with his friends, and they're like, "What is with this story?" And then he went back and watched the show and realized it was canceled after one season. And then he introduced it to me, and he made me watch the movie first. So I had the same experience.
I mean, I would probably say start with the series rather than the movie. I just have to come across
I would agree
first, because I mean, they're sort of making a big deal about River and all the rest, and it's like, well, yeah, but if you haven't seen 14 episodes of her build up, you kind of need to know that. So
I agree.
It worked on that front. But your last sentence summed up my thoughts. The problems I have with this game: one being punishing as all get out when it's a dice rolling luck fest.
It is,
but it is too long. If this was a 45 to 60-minute game, I would probably own this and play it a lot for that theme. But this goes on for like 2-3 hours.
It can go so long.
and this is like 3 hours of dice rolling, because everything is luck. Everything you do in this game is based on no skill. It's based on luck. And for 3 hours, that's just too much.
It is really long. Yeah.
It's sandbox, like you say, but I've got things like Fields of Arle and Western Legends and a few of these other ones. The things with those sandbox games, though, is that you do have a degree of what you choose to do for the game. Right. This one, you don't necessarily get the choice, because the missions you get will obviously be random in the card draws, but then even the crew you get is random at certain places. Like if I'm playing Firefly...
Well, to a degree. Yeah, you get a certain amount of cards to choose from. You can choose what planets to go to, and you can choose to, work either you can work with characters that are bad and do evil things, or you can stay on the good side. Like it's not entirely luck.
It's more that I can't cherry pick the ones I like. I mean, I could go to one area that I think a character could turn up in and get generic side NPC character I don't care about. But it's like, if I'm playing this, I'm like, right, I'm starting off, I'm going to do like moral stuff for the most part. I've got my Captain Reynolds, I am good. Now can I just find Kaylee, and then anybody else is gravy after that? It's like, I want to go off and find Kaylee first, as she has to be on my ship. Yes, I have a bit of a man crush on her, but it's like she's like the most adorable character in the series.
I don't blame you. I'm not judging.
I fell in love with her character the second I saw her. Like, she's like parked outside. They go to I forget what they call the Alliance planet. They're trying to recruit more stuff, and she's just out there with the umbrella, just like, oh, nice it is. I thought, this is such a cool character. But that aside, I can't go and find Kaylee. I have to go to a deck and hope that she turns up.
I feel like more than I try to get good crew, but I'm more conscientious about completing the tasks at hand that I can, that aren't as risky, and then I always try to get all the tech that I need. And
the first thing I do is jump in with the thematic thing of like, right, I want this.
You're more in for the story, but I always try to keep things manageable, and that way you can kind of keep the danger at bay. But and then your husband will send the Reavers into your space, and then you're completely screwed.
Look at that. It's just this bit, 120 to 240 minutes. That's just ridiculous.
It's super long. It is once a year type thing. Once a year, we'll get like a little itch to play, and we'll get our Firefly friends together that aren't necessarily big board gamers, but they'll play this game with us, and it's a blast. So
Yeah,
and it's like a roller coaster ride. I can't justify it. It's just what it is.
That's a mistake. I mean, yeah, I'd play the game once a year. And it has to be with friends I know, because I do know someone who has this game with all the expansions, even like a magnetic board that when we played it around his before, it's all laid out on what small table he has, but then there's stuff on a magnetic board.
You need a big table.
Yeah, but we've done it as an event because all of us have watched the series and like, this is the one time, look, this game is way too long. I'm probably going to be rolling dice all day, but let's just get drunk and play this game.
It kind of keeps, it keeps the magic alive. You know, it had such a short-lived life. So that's why it was kind of like, Manila is a game you can share, you can introduce to people and kind of change their world or their perception of gaming. But Firefly personally is just very special. So
yeah, they're going. All right, and with my number one, remember you did Letters from Whitechapel. And I definitely sort of hinted, yes, there is a hidden movement one on my list on there. I do have a couple of choices for which ones, because I do have a couple in my collection that I go to. This one, though, again, not so much the deduction part, even though that can be good on your edge of your seat, because this one, with Whitechapel and the others, you could get into a situation where you're completely off on the wrong tangent. It's like you're nowhere near this guy. Whereas this one, the abilities on the characters are designed to have you close in quite quick, and then it's up to the person to try and get out of that situation. But if you are being hunted in Spectre Ops, this is Stress City, absolute Stress City, and I know this from experience, you know, and like every other hidden movement game, think Metal Gear Solid, your guy agent comes in, he's got to sabotage a few objectives, get out. Everybody else has got this character to try and seek them out, and they've all got weird abilities. Like one guy can see through walls, one guy has well, it depends which set you get, there's two of them, but you know, one guy can have a drive around in the vehicle, one guy's just a sniper, another one's got a dog that can track you down by quadrant, that sort of thing. And because these abilities are designed to close you in, you don't have that scope where you could be on the other side of the map and they're all on the other side completely bewildered. It's like, if they've got any common sense, they will start to piece together where you kind of are. But if you are being hunted in this, it is one of the most stressful experiences for a hidden movement game ever. And I have had experiences where I've come in, a bad combination of enemy characters like keeps pinning me down. You've got these little alleyways to try and get in while trying to find your objectives in different spots. You know, like Whitechapel, you mark down a number and everyone tries to figure out. And they will no doubt be going through 4 or 5 different places you could have been before they get to the place where you are. And then you're constantly nail biting in your head, like, nope, don't go around there. I'm around this corner. And I remember specifically, boards that way round, I think it's a different board for the set I was using, but somewhere in this like bottom corner, I remember having a situation where they closed me down to such an extent, like literally all 4 of them are practically around the spot I'm at. And literally it's 50-50. Like one guy just has to turn around the corner. He'll be staring straight in my face, like next door to me, and I'm screwed. No word for the amount of stress I'm feeling at that point. But then they go around the other way and it's just like, get out, edge away. And it felt so good to get away, but oh man, I've never been so like scared.
Nervous.
Notice. It's like, this is like literally you've just got to turn to your left and you can see me and there's no way I can get out of this. This is make or break time. And just managed to get out and still managed to get the mission done. But my God, this one is, you cannot stay hidden for very long. Because you've got health, so at some point you probably will get noticed and shot at. Whether you'll take any hits or not depends, but you've got hit points, so it's designed into the game that at some point you're going to get spotted and you've got to hide yourself again. So this isn't the type of game where, like Whitechapel, where you'll stay hidden for pretty much the entire game until you are found.
Until you're right.
Yeah, this one is, we found you, bang. Oh, we found you again, bang.
You're dead.
Okay. I tried to, but I mean, some characters I do think are a little bit overpowered in how they work. Like the dog when combined with a guy who can see through walls. Yeah,
That's not fair.
Well, they work fine by themselves, but that combination was the one that I just had that scenario in, and I was lucky enough to get out of it. But I thought, yeah, that combination's a little bit overpowered. But like I say, that's the way with a lot of these. But most of them pretty balanced. You know, they're all powerful. Like the werewolf guy sniffs, like some werewolf type character sniffs you out. I forget how he works, but you know, like catches your scent and starts coming at you, but like woe betide you if you get into close range with him. It's that kind of thing. But looks beautiful on the table.
Yeah.
But for Stress City, I always loved being the one being hunted because, yeah, no other hidden movement game, even Escape from the Aliens and Outer Space, which is also on my shelf that I considered.
I considered it too. Yeah, but I haven't played it enough to love it. So how would you say it compares to Whitechapel as far as like being the others?
How do you mean being the others?
Well, being the hunters, yeah.
I think this is more fun because your character has an ability that's unique to you. And there's I mean, you've still got, it's kind of similar in a sense. You're talking with your fellow like co-workers and that. And even then, this does go a bit long again with too many players. So I'm more into playing this 1-on-1, 1 against 2 maybe, 4 at an absolute max, 5 way too long, even with the variant rules it has. But but because your abilities are very unique and the agent can use gadgets and stuff, you get some cool scenarios that take place. But when you are being the person figuring it out, I think it's because you can nail it down quicker than other games.
It's ramped up more.
Yeah, it's ramped up more. You feel like you're closing in all the time. Whereas with Whitechapel, you might literally be stabbing in the dark at some point until you get those hints. Yeah. So eventually you narrow it down, but it could be a while before that happens. This one, it's like, nope. First, like few turns, it's like, you've got to be in that section somewhere. Right, you go this way, you go this way, find in. It's like having a little mini paintball game in a tiny arena.
Well, I wrote it down. I would like to try this one. Because I love the hidden movement, but I also like the it intimidates me to be the one. I'd much rather be a part of the group.
I was gonna say, if it intimidates you, you will wait this one being a hunter.
One day, maybe I'll be brave enough. One day,
let the husband be the one hunted, and you'll forget it. All right, whew. All right.
That was a lot of games.
Ones. Yeah, that. Was there? I don't think there was a crossover. Was there?
No. I knew some of yours. You knew some of mine, but no crossovers. So that was
20 unique games, which is fair enough. I mean, it's
pretty cool.
We got some similarities in a sense. Like you've got your Letters from Whitechapel. I got my Spectre Ops. So we got like similar genres.
Yeah.
Even though I avoided racing games and dexterity, but then yours doesn't have as many on the timed side of things. You know,
right. Not quite as many. I thought you might have like Quacks. I thought for sure you would have Quacks on your Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Quedlinburg? No, not that one. I mean, I don't mind it. I don't mind the game, but it's just push your luck the entire game.
It is just push your luck, yeah.
I don't feel on the edge of my seat because I'm just flipping a token and hoping that I'm not unlucky enough to draw 5 of those blank ones in the first few turns. And if that does happen, I'm not on the edge of my seat. I'm just frustrated that
it happened again.
I can't do much this round. You know, woe is me.
It's
fine, but.
Yeah, I thought that Quacks would be like my golden game when I first heard about it, but I just don't like it, even though I like the push your luck. I like the risk-taking sort of games, but for some reason it just isn't interesting.
There was quite a few shortlisted ones. I mentioned Camel Up. That was definitely one. Atlantis Rising, I thought for a co-op, but then I thought, maybe not as much. Seven Wonders Duel for a Euro-y one, I thought, because that can get quite tense when you get to the last phase, but then not always, or at least not enough to make it past the slot. Sentinels, the Multiverse I consider just because, but then I think that's more because of the story and immersion side of it rather than total edge of your seat, so I kind of left that one off. Not Alone, another hidden movement one I considered. Nemesis, the big alien one.
Yeah.
But I've not played it enough to really warrant it. Celestia, I don't know why I put that one on there because I think that's more laugh out loud rather than edge of your seat.
Yeah.
And Lost Cities for the 2-player card game because Lost Cities constantly will be like like I can't give out this card because the other person wants it, but then are they holding mine?
Gotcha. Yeah. It's like a tug of war more than push your luck. Yeah. Yeah. I considered putting Western Legends on, but it is another sandbox game. It's more of a clean cut sandbox game, but I just feel like Firefly is more epic. And then I thought about Xenoshift, but that's just a bloodbath. So
oh god, that's just punishing as well.
It's just punishing.
I mean, definitely with our 10, there's definitely a differing sort of level of what's considered like edge of your seat in the sense. Like, I mean, on there's a couple on mine that I know you probably would never have put on per se, but then on yours, I would never consider something like Ponzi Scheme or what's another one?
Manila, maybe?
Or Dutch Blitz, kind of. The Crew. I did put a Trick Taker on, so I guess it fits. Or like the bidding games. Like the bidding games don't keep me on the edge of my seat as much as for you personally.
Yeah.
And racing games, I did consider things like Downforce and Camel Up and that, but I think it's just because they're inconsistent. You know, sometimes they'll be edge of your seat, like close finish, and then other times it will just be.
It's true, yeah, and that's why Rallyman was low because of that. Yeah, it depends on the group. It depends how risky they are.
But I think this will be a good little mix on there. But that's all good for that. Cheers, Jona, for turning up for this one. Your suggestion as well. So hoping you've got what you needed out of your system on this.
I did. I think I'm good for a while now. I'm gonna go to play some relaxing games.
You're gonna go spend time with the needy kids who wanted some attention during that. They wanted there. But now, everybody, like I say, One Pip Wonder. There will be a link in the description to the channel. Go check it out. # support small creators. I will ingrain it into your subconscious if it kills me. That's the way it is. But thanks a lot, Jona, for coming on. So that's a bye from me.
Bye, everybody.
Right.
Bye.
As I say, go on. You gotta be more enthusiastic. And we'll see you later. It's only a game, everyone.